Hey guys, Mike from Build It Tune It EV. Today we have the new version 2 torque plates for the Super 73 with the aluminum frames. This is the upgraded dropout, and we're going to go over how easy it is to install them, how long it takes, and the tools necessary. I already have some tools laid out here. You're going to need a number 5 Allen wrench, a 21mm socket, and an 18mm socket. And then you'll also need, I believe it's a number 4 Allen wrench as well. So the first thing I like to do is flip the bike over. It makes it tremendously easy. So we're going to do that. I usually just grab the rear brake, put something down so it doesn't scuff the rear fender. It's plastic and very flexible. Just gently let it down. Grab it by the forks. And then now we have the bike laid down. From here, it gets pretty easy. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is get the bike prepped to put the new plates on. And it's a little bit easier to start with the brake side of the bike. It has some extra components that will make it easier to do it on the other side. So I suggest starting with the side with the brake. The first thing you want to do is take a set of Allen wrenches, and you're going to use a number 4 here. And you're going to loosen this factory pinch bolt. Just some of them will be a little bit difficult. This one's been off before, so we can loosen it pretty easily. Careful not to bend your rotor, it is a little bit close. So once it's off, you can usually turn it by hand, but you just need to back it off about 2 millimeters worth so that there's no longer a clamping force here. Then next, we'll go ahead and take a 21mm socket and break this free. I've already worked on this bike, so it's not super tight. And on this side, not on the other one, it uses an actual torque washer. So what you'll see, it has a little tab on it. It can be a little bit of a pain to get off. You just work it off. And this has, you'll see, like a little bit of a tab right here. And this is no longer to be used. This is actually what's keeping it from rotating. Kind of funny that that's all it is, but we're going to go ahead and upgrade that. I'll slide this stuff over to be a little close. All right, so you're going to have 2 torque plates. One of them is going to have a cutout, and one of them is not going to have a cutout. The one with the cutout will be the tensioner side, and without will be the brake side. So this is the new design. Previously, they were welded on the sides in a 2-piece design, and that made it a little bit difficult to keep very tight tolerances. So what we did now is made it all out of 1 piece, CNC cut, which drove the cost up, but ultimately offers a better product. And then we also added an M6 bolt that you can attach accessories to, like your rear fender, some light bar, a rear rack. A lot of guys get creative. We had some people asking for that, so we made sure to include it this time. So with that done, the next thing we're going to do is take our number 5 Allen, and we're going to loosen up the bolts. So these are the 2 bolts right here. You got 2 of them on each side. We're going to go ahead and loosen them. And it's very important when you do these, you want to get the Allen all the way in. Sometimes there's dirt, debris you might have to clean out. So we're going to unthread these. Mine are already pre-loosened, so I got the luxury of that. It can be a little bit of a struggle because they are Loctited. And again, it's very important to make sure that there's no dirt in there. Sometimes you got to use a little pick tool. You want to make sure the Allen is going all the way in. So we got one out, and we got the other one out. So we got both of these out. Now I always just use maybe a microfiber if you're real picky. This bike has been pretty used, so I'm just going to use a cloth. You want to make sure that this surface right here has no debris on it, and as well the face of the actual factory torque arm. Just give it a little bit of a wipe down. And now on the other side, you're going to want to loosen up. You don't have to remove them all the way. The same 2 bolts you removed here, you want to loosen them on the other side. This will allow the motor to kind of move around a little bit, but you do want to keep them in at this point. So we're just going to go ahead and loosen them. And I would show you this, but it's the exact same size. And we're just loosening them about a 1/4 turn so that the axle, you'll actually see, everything can kind of move back here. And that's what we want. So now we're going to take the corresponding torque plate and just carefully slide it over the axle. You'll see it's a very tight fit. Then it might take some moving here, but once you get it lined up, as you can see, the whole thing can rotate. So it does take a little bit of finessing, but when you get it, it'll pop right into place just like so. Now you're going to take the new stainless steel bolts. They're 25 millimeters in length. the same size Allen wrench, and you're going to want to put these in. So you can use Loctite if you don't plan on servicing the bike. I do recommend at least 1 drop of the blue Loctite, and just slide it in. And it won't go in if you don't have it. Actually, let's make sure. Yep, I need to slide this axle forward. I should have mentioned that. You're going to want to look in these holes first, and I can see here it's too far back. So sometimes you got to take the whole wheel and just slide it forward a little bit until you actually see that you can go all the way through. Now we'll be able to put this bolt back in there. As you can see, it went all the way in. And now you're going to see it'll actually draw itself right to the frame, and you're actually squishing the factory swing arm. So you're taking the factory torque plate, and then you're got the swing arm, and you're sandwiching this. So it's actually clamping it down and offering a much more uniform clamping force on the swing arm versus just being one-sided. And then take your other M8 bolt here, slide it in. And you can snug it up. You don't have to go too crazy on tightening them right now because you might have to move this for the other side. So you just want to get it hand tight, you know. Like you can see, they're just loose to move. Maybe crack this one just a little bit more. There we go. So I can move them both by hand. And then now we're going to, without the factory torque washer, we're going to want to head and put this on. You can see it's got a built-in lock washer on it. So we go ahead and thread this on. Boom. Now, we just leave it like this. We don't want to get too carried away with over-torquing it. So we're going to pause the video, flip the bike around, and get to the other side. All right, so we got the bike flipped around, and now we're just going to do the reverse process. Excuse me while I move some stuff around here. So obviously you're only left with 1 plate, but it'll be the cutout plate just to go over it again, and that's for the tensioner here. So now we can go ahead and, I've already loosened these, but we're going to go ahead and get them all the way out. And for me, I already have the axle nut loose, which is an 18 millimeter, and I apologize, the other side is a 21. So we'll go ahead and loosen this here. It's a good idea to break this nut loose first before removing those. I did the steps a little bit backwards, but it's not a problem. You can easily put them back in. Again, we're going to take our paper towel, wipe off the face, make sure we have no debris there that's going to prevent it from sandwiching correctly. Take your torque plate, and again, it might take a little bit of finesse and playing around. It's a tight fit. So here we got to move it back just a little bit. There we go. So now that it's lined up, we're going to go ahead and take our bolts here, thread that one in, thread the second one in, switch to our Allen. And it's always best to do this before you put the axle nut on. So we're going to go ahead and start tightening these up. The front one, go ahead and do the back one. Sometimes it'll be a little bit tight. You're putting a brand new bolt in a used hole, so it's nice and fresh. But you want to make sure it's not cross-threaded. It shouldn't take too much effort. Okay, again, we just want to snug these up for now. And then without any sort of washer, you'll take the nut for this side, thread it on. And then now I like to give it like a little bit of a wiggle just to make sure everything is nice and kind of set home. And then now we can actually torque these bolts down. Again, if you're not going to be working on the bike anytime soon, you can apply 1 drop of Loctite, blue Loctite to each one. You don't want to overly snug these, but you do want to put a little bit of torque on there. On the website, we'll put the actual torque spec for you guys. Take our 18 millimeter now. Sorry, my automatic lighting. Alright, sorry about that. My lights turned a little bit dim. So we're going to go ahead and torque this nut now in the back for the actual axle. Give it a good snug. And as you can see, it just protrudes past the nut just a little bit. And with that done, this side is fully complete. As you can see, it's a factory looking part. Your tensioner has plenty of room to clear. It looks like it's going to hit, but it actually doesn't. It's just a very close fitment. Your tensioner clears, your axle's tight, and you're good to go. So now we're going to go ahead and on the other side and just finish that up. I'll flip the bike around for that. All right, so we're back on the other side here, and it's pretty simple here. We're just going to go ahead and torque these two up. Boom, nice and tight. We're going to go ahead and take our 22 millimeter socket, or 21 millimeter socket. Torque that up. And then the final thing that you're going to do is, over here, sorry, is take again your number 4 Allen, and then on the pinch bolt, you're going to want to tighten that back up. Nice and snug. And you're done. That's it. You do want to make sure that your motor wire is not going to touch the brake rotor since you have been working on it. It will be secured out of the way from Super 73, but that's just one thing I like to check. So you just want to spin the motor, make sure your motor cable is not touching it. If it is, it's a good time to add a zip tie and prevent that from happening. But now we can flip the bike upright. What I like to do is just lift it by the handlebars until the rear end touches. So just kind of do this. If you grab the rear brake, it'll stop it from rotating.